Hello everyone, this is Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a powerful jet stream that's going to be coming across, bringing in multiple days of severe storms with heavier snows on the backside. Plus, we have two named storms in the Atlantic that has formed, as we'll walk you through the next 7 days. So I appreciate all my followers out there and my new followers. If you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America and the tropics, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's take a look at the overall setup, what's going to happen for the rest of the week, as we're going to be seeing this powerful jet stream that's really going to be buckling from down here from the Gulf of Alaska, extending all the way into the coast of California. You can see the Arctic high pressure just pressing in that colder air all the way into Los Angeles, where they could be seeing some record low temperatures. But out ahead of it, we just got plenty of warm conditions. And as this taps into the warm sector, we've got several days of severe storms that we're going to have to be concerned about with all three modes that are on the table. As we take you through the Atlantic, man, there's actually still some tropical developments down here into the Atlantic. This is November 1st. We've got about another month left in hurricane season. You can see this activity down here. This is actually Tropical Storm Lisa that's continuing to form and actually expected to be a hurricane. And then we also have newly developed Tropical Storm Martin. So it has been active. You can actually see where they located. This continues going to be westbound. It's actually going to be impacting portions of Belize with another 8 to 12 inches of rainfall by Thursday morning. And then we have newly developed Tropical Storm Martin up here in the open waters of the Atlantic. This is actually only the third time since 1966 that we've had two storms in the month of November that have been in the Atlantic Basin at the exact same time. And this ends November the 30th hurricane season. But fun fact, we actually have had 87 named storms since they've been keeping records since 1851 outside of hurricane season. So that's a fun fact. But man, the main concern with Lisa would be the extreme heavier rainfalls that it's going to be extending into Belize, making that landfall by Thursday morning with another 8 to 12 inches on the table. Very heavy rainfall, and those higher wind gusts are going to be impacting those hurricane force wind gusts, and that extends into a good chunk of Guatemala. So this whole area is going to be on high alert for those higher winds and those 8 to 12 inch rain amounts in the coming days. So closer to home, we're going to be talking about this trough that's going to be digging in. That's got brought plenty of cold air with it. Freeze watches up here in Oregon, up into portions of Washington, but all those winter storm watches, winter storm warnings with a lot of heavier snow. And actually, the snow levels are actually going to be dropping down to about 3,500 feet. So you guys that live in the higher elevations, even down all the way to 3,500 feet, should actually see some snow over the next couple of days. It's really going to be very heavy up here into the Sierra Nevada. But all these brown shaded areas, that is your high wind warnings and wind watches. As that trough is going to be really digging, it's got a lot of heavier winds on the backside, and you can actually see some of these wind gusts. This is through Thursday, through 48 hours, about Thursday morning. This is actually before any severe storms actually starts. So this whole system is going to be really packing a punch with very heavy winds, regardless of the severe weather. So back into Nevada, into Utah, into Arizona, into portions of New Mexico, into Colorado, all these oranges and red shaded areas, that's over 60 mile per hour wind gusts, 70 mile per hour wind gusts. Some of these could be hurricane force wind gusts, not out of the question over the next 2 days as this powerful trough will be swinging across. So what happens into Thursday? Things get interesting. So as we wake up onto Thursday morning with that trough really digging down into the coast of California, drops those temperatures all the way down to the coastline, could be looking at some record low temperatures all the way into Southern California. Widespread 20s where all the rain, all the red shaded areas are. But in the middle of the country, that's the concern. We're going to have that clash in temperatures, and these are morning low temperatures, and all these boxes here, that's some record high minimum. So I don't need to tell you, when you're having low temperatures of 57 degrees in Nebraska, 60 degrees in Minnesota, that's warm, guys. This is November. So that's what's the concern it is with all that clash in temperatures. When that air mass hits it, Boom, that's going to set the stage for some severe storms, but it doesn't really get going until Thursday night. So before that, here's where the precipitation will fall between now and Thursday afternoon. So you have some beneficial rains, not just on the coastal regions of the atmospheric river of Portland and Seattle there, but all the way into Northern California. Places into Sacramento is going to be some beneficial rains, back into portions even all the way down into San Diego. So parts of California is going to pick up some healthier totals. This darker shaded red, that's those heavier snows are going to be falling in the Sierra Nevada. But you've got much ample amount of moisture going to be coming in. Most of this is actually going to be in the form of snow, but you can see for the rest of the country, it's pretty high and dry. We got that ridge of high pressure locked over these areas. So not much happening out here for the next couple of days. I know the Philly and Astro game was rained out in Philadelphia last night. That has moved on, so no rain is expected for the rest of the series. So back behind that system between now and Thursday afternoon, there's where all the heavier snows will fly. Good chunk of portions of the Sierra Nevada up here into a good chunk of Utah into Colorado, back into the Front Range. We'll start getting it sometime on Thursday night, I think, and Denver with a couple inches of snow. So that's where the heavier snows will fly. But this is the concern as we go into Thursday night, right? So this is your dew points, right? So this is the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, and typically you start to look for about 55 degrees. That's usually the threshold of where, hey, it could be raining, or at least maybe look at some severe storms. Right out here in the Texas Panhandle, you see all the dew points are well into the 20s, if not teens, back behind us. Once it taps into that warm sector, that is the concern with all the lift that's going to be associated with this upper level low. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted that day 3 risk in this area down here into the Texas Panhandle, into Lubbock, into Amarillo, back into portions of Garden City, good chunk of Kansas. This extends all the way into portions of Nebraska here. So essentially, thunderstorm development will begin, I think, into the later evening time frame during the overnight hours. This is potentially all 3 modes of severe weather, damaging winds, some large hail, and that isolated tornado threat would be extending. And then that thunderstorm threat extends all the way in that warm sector into Minneapolis, back into Duluth. And this is the time frame. I think it's going to be an overnight setup, so I don't think anything really gets going. This is why my concern was for some of those nocturnal tornadoes, because it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. Things are let up into the Texas Panhandle, far portions of western Oklahoma, get into portions of Kansas. So this is the area that I'll be most concerned about with that severe storms in all 3 modes on the table by then. But as we go into Friday, so that's when things really start to get interesting, because this only just gets ramped up, even intensifies even greater than what we're going to be seeing on Thursday. So as this upper level low will be swinging across, I do feel the dew points are higher, and this system is actually going to be coming in during peak heating of the day. 21Z is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So look at the dew points. They're not in the low 60s. They're not in the mid 50s anymore. Now we're talking near 70. That is a big difference with the same power upper level low. It's going to be tapping into this warm sector. And that's going to spell trouble with all 3 modes of severe weather. Is definitely going to be on the table for a good chunk of central Texas all the way through Oklahoma. So that's why we do have a day 4 risk already from the Storm Prediction Center. I feel like this is easily going to be elevated and upward all the way up to an enhanced risk. We even could be looking at some moderate risk criterias as we get closer to this event. This won't be until Friday afternoon, Friday evening time frame. So places into San Antonio, Waco, Austin, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Oklahoma City, places into Kansas, those areas will be on high alert essentially from mid-afternoon to about the midnight time frame. That's potentially the time frame we know by now as things to be on the lookout, on high alert for those all 3 modes of severe storms, because the radar is really going to be lit up by then. There's what it could look like with all the lightning displays about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday over central Texas, over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, over the Oklahoma City area, with the radar really lit up, talking about discrete supercells. Could be looking at some large damaging hail and some stronger winds. So I think the initial start would be that larger hail, that isolated tornado threat, and then it forms into a squall line. And then you have that heavier winds. Easily we could be looking at 75, some 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts is definitely not out of the question. This whole corridor, as this powerful storm system will be tapping into the warm sector, this would probably be the most significant threat of the fall season so far down here in this area. So as we go into Saturday, so as this upper level low will be screaming across, we go into Saturday afternoon, it clears out much of Texas. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. It's going to be a really nice weekend in Texas after all the damage is done into the afternoon, into the overnight hours. This will be swinging across into portions of Louisiana, back into Arkansas, going up into portions of Illinois by then, as the upper level low will be swinging across. We could probably looking at some severe storms, and this sector up here, as this upper level low, 993 millibar low pressure by Saturday, will be coming up into the upper Midwest, tapping into those warmer conditions, right? So as we go into that Saturday, going into that Sunday time frame, later into the day on Sunday, this rapidly moves quickly. I mean, it goes all the way through Illinois, through Wisconsin, into Canada. Now we're talking a 972 millibar low pressure, well up here into Canada, as all this system will start to fade as it goes into the Ohio Valley, much of the Mid-Atlantic and much of the Northeast. It really gets more or less untapped. This whole area just misses the entire system. It stays predominantly on the drier side, if not well above average on the temperature side. So as we go into Sunday, that's when things start to flip a little bit. So we're going to be seeing those record high temperatures. Minneapolis is going to kick it off today. Those record high temperatures will extend for a good chunk of the east, really all throughout the week. We go into Sunday, right? As we go into Sunday, it really never taps into the Ohio Valley. It never taps into the Mid-Atlantic. It never goes into the Northeast, into New England. So you're always going to be on the warm side, well above average temperatures. You know, I do feel records will be falling. Some records will be falling up here, but look what happens underneath. Once you have the ridge of high pressure setting up over the top, that helps lower the pressures underneath. So we could be looking at some lowering pressures starting to originate again until, and this is Sunday, November the 6th, down here into portions of the Bahamas. At the same time, we've got some true Arctic air really starting to take shape and really starting to build over Western Canada. And by far, the coldest temperatures of the season go into early next week. So on Monday, the November the 7th time frame, I know it's a lot to go over with, so stay with me. We got the ridge over the top. We got lower pressures underneath. Southeast, boom. We'll have to look out for this activity trying to form into some tropical type system. All this area will be plenty warm still. At the same time, we've got that 1046 Arctic high pressure building over Western Canada. That is some serious cold air for early November standards, and we could be looking at, by the middle of next week, well below average temperatures, a good over 30 degrees below average temperatures. And the first time this season, we could be looking at temperatures below zero in this area right here. And I think that's just the beginning stages of what's to come for the second half of November, because we head northbound, right? We go all the way up into the stratosphere. We start to see the beginning stages of what we highlighted on this channel of the polar vortex starting to get stretched out by the 12th of the month. So it originates over Western Canada starting in early next week. As this polar vortex will start to weaken, as it starts to stretch out, heading through the mid-latitudes, that'll set up some cross-polar flow. The EPO goes negative into the second half of November, plus the NAO goes negative as well. That creates the blocking, that creates the cross-polar flow, setting up a much colder second half of the central and eastern two-thirds of the US. But between now and then, here's your rainfall for the next 7 days. We got some heavier rains moving in to the Pacific Northwest with that atmospheric river beneficial rains in Northern California, lighter amounts as we swing through Central and Southern California. Most of this will be in the form of snow, but some healthy doses in the Four Corners regions, but the heavier amounts will be right over the Clash in areas 1 to 3 inches, pretty much widespread for a good chunk of central Texas into North Texas, going into the Oklahoma City area, into Kansas. This area is going to be seeing the heaviest rainfall, where the upper level low will be traversing across, and this is where the severe threat would be as well, up extending into Iowa, probably extending into northern portions of Wisconsin, and even going into portions of Canada by the time we get into your Sunday time frame. And then much lighter amounts on the precipitation front as you extend for a good chunk of the southeast. And we'll be watching this area down here into the off the southeast coast and the Bahamas by early next week of any tropical development, as a broad area of low pressure will be forming by then. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.